What if one small moment could open a door you were never supposed to walk through? Ethan never planned to see Linda Harper again. 2 years had passed since his divorce from Claire. 2 years of silence, short emails about paperwork, and careful distance from everything connected to his old life. Maplewood was a small town in Oregon, but somehow he had managed to avoid running into anyone from Claire's family. Until that Saturday morning at the farmer's market, he was standing near a stall of fresh peaches when he heard a soft voice behind him. "Ethan?" The sound of his name in that familiar tone made his chest tighten. He turned slowly. Linda stood there holding a basket of flowers, her brown hair pulled back, her expression surprised but warm. She looked almost the same. Calm. Gentle. The kind of presence that used to make family dinners feel peaceful. "Hi, Linda," he said, trying to sound steady. For a second, neither of them knew what to do. The crowd moved around them. Music played near the fountain. A child laughed somewhere close. But between them, time felt frozen. "I didn't know you were back in town," she said. "I moved here last fall," Ethan replied. "New job?" "Real estate firm downtown." She nodded. "Claire moved to Chicago." That caught him off guard. "She did?" "Yes. A marketing position. Big company." He forced a polite smile. "That's good for her." Linda studied his face as if she could still read him the way she used to. She always had that ability. When Ethan and Claire argued during their marriage, Linda would quietly ask him if he was okay. She never chose sides out loud, but her eyes always showed she understood more than she said. "It's been a long time," she added softly. "Yeah," he said. "It has." He could have ended it there. A quick goodbye. A polite nod. But something held him in place. "I'm glad you look well," Linda continued. "I worried about you after everything." After everything. That was how people described divorce in small towns. As if the details were too sharp to say aloud. "I'm fine," he replied. It wasn't fully true, but it was easier than explaining the lonely nights or the quiet apartment that still felt too big for one person. There was a pause. Then Linda said, "Would you like to get coffee? Just to catch up." The invitation surprised him. It felt harmless. Almost innocent. She had once been family. Maybe this was just closure. A chance to clear old tension. "Sure," he heard himself say. They walked across the street to a small cafe with tall windows and soft lighting. Inside, it smelled like roasted beans and cinnamon. They found a corner table. For a moment, it felt like stepping into a memory, except Claire wasn't there. Linda wrapped her hands around her cup. "I want to say something," she began carefully. "I don't think I handled your divorce well." Ethan looked up. "You didn't have to choose me over your daughter." "I know," she said. "But I could have listened better. I could have asked how you were feeling instead of assuming you were the strong one." Her honesty caught him off guard. During the divorce, he had felt like the villain. Claire had been hurt. She told her parents he was distant, distracted by work, emotionally unavailable. Some of that was true. But he had felt unheard too. Like they were speaking different languages and neither knew how to translate. "It was complicated," he said quietly. Linda's eyes softened. "You were good to her in many ways." "I saw that." Hearing those words lifted something heavy inside him. It wasn't about getting back with Claire. It was about being seen. About not feeling erased. They talked longer than he expected. About his new apartment near the river. About Linda's volunteer work at the local arts center. About how strange it felt when children grow up and leave. "At night the house feels too quiet," she admitted. "I didn't realize how much noise Claire brought into it." Ethan smiled faintly. "I understand." Quiet. Their conversation flowed easily. Too easily. There was no tension, no bitterness. Just warmth. Familiar comfort. At one point, Linda laughed at a story he told about a difficult client. The sound made him remember holidays in her kitchen, helping her cook while Claire scrolled through her phone. Back then, he had felt closer to Linda than he ever admitted. He pushed that thought away. This was nostalgia. Nothing more. After an hour, they stood to leave. Outside, the afternoon sun was brighter, the market busier. I'm glad we talked, Linda said. She touched his arm lightly. The gesture was gentle, but it lingered just long enough to feel different. Me too, Ethan replied. She hesitated. Maybe we could do it again sometime. As friends. The word friends felt safe. Acceptable, sure, he said. They walked in opposite directions. Ethan reached his car and paused before unlocking it. His mind replayed the conversation. The way she looked at him. The way her voice softened when she said his name. He shook his head, trying to clear it. This was harmless. Just two adults reconnecting after time apart. But as he drove home, he couldn't ignore the subtle shift inside him. Something had woken up. Not desire exactly. Not yet. It was more like curiosity. Like a door that had always been locked now standing slightly open. Later that evening, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Hi, Ethan. It's Linda. I realized I still had your contact saved. I hope that's okay. He stared at the screen. He could ignore it. Keep things simple. Protect the fragile peace he had built. Instead, he typed back, of course it's okay. The three dots appeared almost instantly. I'm glad, she wrote. Today felt nice. He read that word again. Nice. It seemed harmless. Ordinary. But as Ethan lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, he knew something had shifted. Not in a dramatic way. No big confession. No bold move, just a feeling. A quiet, growing awareness that running into Linda Harper at a crowded farmer's market might not have been random at all. And deep down, he wondered if this simple meeting was about to change everything. What happens when a simple message turns into something you can't ignore? The text started slowly. Short. Polite. Safe. Linda would send a photo of flowers from the market. Ethan would reply with a picture of the river near his apartment. They talked about work, about books, about small things that filled quiet evenings. At first, it felt harmless. Just two adults reconnecting. But the messages became longer. More personal. And somehow, more important. One night, Linda wrote, do you ever think about how different things could have been? Ethan stared at the screen for a long time. He knew she wasn't only talking about the weather or her garden all the time. He replied. The conversation shifted after that. They began speaking honestly about the past. About Claire. About the marriage that slowly fell apart. Linda admitted she had seen the distance growing between them long before the divorce. You both stopped listening, she wrote. You were in the same house but living separate lives. Ethan felt exposed reading that. It was true. He had buried himself in work. Claire had buried herself in social media and new friends. They had stopped choosing each other. I didn't know how to fix it, he typed. Sometimes people don't want it fixed, Linda answered. That sentence stayed with him. A week later, Linda suggested they meet again. There's an art show downtown Friday night. I'm volunteering there. You should come. He hesitated. This felt less accidental. More intentional, but he went. The art center was bright and modern. Paintings covered white walls. Soft music played in the background. Linda stood near the entrance greeting guests. When she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his heart race. I'm glad you came, she said. He noticed the way she had dressed. Simple navy dress. Silver necklace. Elegant without trying too hard. She looked confident. Not just someone's mother. Not just Claire's mom. She looked like a woman with her own story. They walked through the exhibit together. She explained each artist's work with passion. Ethan listened, impressed. He realized he had never asked her much about her own dreams during his marriage. She had always been in the background. Supportive. Kind. Quiet. You're different here, he said. How? She asked. You seem alive. She smiled softly. Maybe I am. The air between them shifted again. Subtle. Charged. Halfway through the evening, Ethan spotted someone familiar across the room. His chest tightened. It was Mark, one of Claire's old friends. Mark glanced at him, surprised, then looked at Linda standing beside him. For a second, Ethan felt exposed. As if he was doing something wrong just by being there. "Do you think this is a bad idea?" he asked quietly. Linda followed his gaze and saw Mark. Her expression changed. Not fear. Not shame. Just awareness. "We're talking," she said calmly. "That's all." But was it only that? Later, after the event ended, they stepped outside into the cool night air. The streetlights cast soft shadows on the sidewalk. "I don't want to cause problems," Ethan said. "For you. Or Claire." Linda looked at him carefully. "Claire has moved on. She barely calls. She's building her own life." "That doesn't mean this wouldn't hurt her." Linda's voice softened. "Ethan, we are two adults having coffee and conversations. Why does it feel like a crime?" He didn't have an answer, because it felt like more than coffee, because every time she looked at him, something inside him stirred, because he had once called her daughter his wife. A silence stretched between them. The kind filled with things unsaid. Then Linda spoke again. "After my divorce from Claire's father, I promised myself I would never ignore my own feelings again. I spent years being practical. Responsible. Careful. And I was lonely." Ethan had never heard her speak like this. Honest. Vulnerable. "I didn't expect to feel anything," she continued. "Especially not this." The word hung in the air. "This?" he asked gently. She met his eyes. Connection. His heart pounded. He could walk away now. Keep it simple. Protect everyone from future pain, but instead, he stepped closer. "I feel it too," he admitted. The confession was quiet. No dramatic music. No fireworks. Just truth. For a moment, they stood there under the streetlight, aware of how thin the line had become. Linda's phone buzzed suddenly. She glanced at it and stiffened. "It's Claire," she said. Ethan's stomach dropped. Linda answered. "Hi, sweetheart." He couldn't hear Claire's voice, but he saw Linda's expression shift from calm to tense. "Yes, I saw Mark tonight," she said slowly. "No, I wasn't alone." Ethan felt the world tilt. There was a pause. Then Linda's eyes flicked toward him. "I was with Ethan," she said. Silence. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. Linda listened. Her face grew pale. "It's not what you think," she tried to explain. "We were at the art show." Another pause. "Longer this time. I'll call you tomorrow," Linda said softly before ending the call. The night felt colder now. "She's upset," Linda admitted. "Of course she is," Ethan said, guilt washing over him. "She thinks we're betraying her." A heavy word. "Betraying, are we?" he asked quietly. Linda didn't answer right away. She looked at him with conflicted eyes. "I don't know," she whispered. A car passed by, headlights cutting through the darkness. Ethan stepped back slightly, creating space between them. Reality was crashing in. This wasn't just two lonely people talking anymore. Claire knew. And Claire was hurting. "I never wanted to come between you and your daughter," he said. "You're not coming between us," Linda replied, though her voice lacked certainty. The connection they had built over weeks now felt fragile. "Dangerous. I should go," Ethan said. Linda nodded, but her eyes held something close to fear. "Will you call me?" He hesitated. Everything inside him said this path would lead to pain. But another part, louder now, didn't want to let go. "Yes," he said finally. As he walked to his car, his phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "We need to talk." Ethan froze. The past he thought was finished had just stepped back into his life, and this time, it wasn't going to stay quiet. How do you explain feelings that were never supposed to exist? Ethan did not reply to Claire's message that night. He sat in his car for a long time, staring at the screen while the city lights blurred through his windshield. "We need to talk." 4 simple words. But they carried years of history. He drove home with a heavy chest and barely slept. The next morning, Claire called again. This time, he answered. "Are you seeing my mother?" she asked without greeting. Her voice was sharp, but beneath it he heard something else. Hurt? No, Ethan said quickly. It's not like that. Mark said you were together. At night. Alone. It was an art show. She invited me. That's all. Claire went quiet. Then she sighed. Why her, Ethan? Out of everyone in this city, why my mom? He didn't have a clean answer. Because she listens. Because she understands me. Because I feel seen. None of those would make it better. It wasn't planned, he said finally. Claire laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. Nothing ever is. They agreed to meet that afternoon at a small cafe near the river, the same place where they used to sit on Sunday mornings when they were still married. The air felt tense the moment he walked in. Claire was already there, arms crossed, eyes tired. You look stressed, he said gently. Don't, she replied. Don't act like you care. That hit him. Because he did care. Just not in the way she wanted anymore. I'm not trying to hurt you, he said. Then why does it feel like you are? She leaned forward. Do you have feelings for her? The question hung between them. He could lie. It would be easier. It would calm the storm, but he was tired of lies. Their marriage had drowned in silence and half-truths. I don't know what I feel, he admitted. Claire's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. That's worse. He reached for his coffee just to have something to hold. Claire, we've been divorced for a year. You're dating someone new. That's different. How? Because he's not connected to you. He's not someone who sat at our dinner table. He's not my mother. The words were sharp but honest. Ethan lowered his voice. Nothing has happened. But you want it to. He didn't answer. And that was answer enough. Claire stood up suddenly. If you cross that line, Ethan, you don't just lose me. You lose whatever peace is left in this family. She walked out, leaving him alone with a cold cup of coffee and a growing storm inside his head. That evening, Linda called. I spoke to Claire, she said softly. So did I. There was a long pause. Both of them understood what that meant. She's hurt, Linda whispered. I know. And she thinks we're planning something behind her back. Are we? He asked again. Linda exhaled slowly. I never wanted to choose between my daughter and whatever this is. The word again. This. Ethan closed his eyes. Maybe we should stop. The silence on the other end felt heavy. Is that what you want? Linda asked. He imagined not seeing her messages. Not hearing her voice. Going back to quiet evenings alone. It felt safe. But empty. I don't know, he admitted. 2 days passed without contact. Ethan threw himself into work. He avoided the river path. Avoided the market. Avoided thinking. On the third night, there was a knock on his apartment door. When he opened it, Linda stood there. She looked nervous but determined. We can't hide from this, she said before he could speak. Running away won't fix it. He stepped aside to let her in. I keep asking myself if this is wrong, she continued. And maybe it is. But I also know I haven't felt this connected to someone in years. Her honesty cut through his confusion. I don't want to hurt Claire, he said. Neither do I. They stood in the middle of his living room, the air thick with everything unsaid. She thinks you're trying to replace her, Linda added quietly. That's not true. I know. But emotions aren't logical. He nodded. Linda looked at him with steady eyes. So we have two choices. We end this now. Completely. Or we accept that it will be messy, and we face it honestly. He felt like he was standing at a fork in the road. Claire won't forgive us, he said. Maybe not now, Linda replied. But hiding will only make it worse. He studied her face. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't chasing drama. She was asking for clarity. Before he could answer, his phone buzzed again. A group message from Claire. It included Ethan and Linda. I'm done being the last one to know what's happening, she wrote. If something is going on, say it. Now. The room went still. Linda looked at him. This is the moment. His heart pounded. This was no longer private confusion. It was a choice in front of everyone. He typed slowly. Then deleted it. Then typed again. Claire's typing bubble appeared. Then disappeared. Linda's hand brushed his lightly. Not romantic. Not dramatic. Just steady. Whatever we decide, she said quietly, we decide together. Ethan stared at the screen. He could end it with one message. Protect the peace. Step back into loneliness. Or he could speak the truth and let everything change. His thumb hovered over the send button and then he began to type the words that would either break the family forever, or finally set them free. What do you do when the truth finally comes out and there is no way to take it back? Ethan looked at the screen for one last second, then pressed send. Claire, there are feelings. We didn't plan them. We didn't want to hurt you. But we won't lie anymore. The message went through. The typing bubble appeared almost instantly. Then stopped. Then appeared again. The silence that followed felt louder than any argument. Linda stood beside him, her hands shaking slightly, but her face calm. This was the moment they had both feared and avoided. Claire's reply finally came. I need space. Don't contact me. That was all. No yelling. No insults. Just distance. Somehow that hurt more. Days passed without another message. Ethan expected anger. Instead, there was nothing. Claire blocked him on social media. She stopped answering calls. Linda tried once to reach her, but it went straight to voicemail. The house Claire had grown up in felt empty when Linda returned each evening. The silence between mother and daughter was heavier than any words. Ethan struggled with guilt. He walked through his apartment replaying memories of his marriage. The good days. The bad days. The slow drift that had pulled them apart long before the divorce papers were signed. He never meant to fall for Linda. It had started with talks at the farmer's market. Then coffee. Then shared jokes about life after 50. Somewhere in those simple moments, something shifted. It was never loud. Just steady. A week later, Claire finally sent another message. Not to Ethan. To Linda. Can we meet? That was it. Linda showed Ethan the text. Her face looked pale. She's ready to talk, she whispered, or to end everything. Ethan replied. Linda met Claire at a quiet park near the river. The same river that had once seen Ethan and Claire as a happy couple. Life had strange circles. Claire was already sitting on a bench when Linda arrived. She looked tired, but not angry. Just hurt. You chose him, Claire said softly. Linda sat down slowly. I didn't choose anyone over you. It feels like you did. Linda's eyes filled with tears. I never wanted to cause you pain. Claire looked at the water. Did you love him while we were still married? No, Linda said firmly. Never. This happened after the divorce. I promise you. Claire believed her. She could see it in her mother's face. That honesty made it harder, not easier. I feel replaced, Claire admitted. First as a wife. Now as a daughter. Linda reached for her hand, but Claire pulled back at first. After a moment, she let their fingers touch. The smallest step. You are my daughter, Linda said. That will never change. What I feel for Ethan is different. It doesn't erase you. Claire wiped her eyes. I need time. I can't pretend I'm okay. I'm not asking you to. That conversation did not fix everything. But it opened a door. Later that evening, Claire surprised Ethan by calling him. He hesitated before answering. I spoke to Mom, she said quietly. I figured. There was no anger in her tone now. Just exhaustion. I don't understand it, she continued. But I also know we were over long before this. Ethan swallowed. Hearing it out loud still hurt. I don't want to lose both of you, Claire added. But I need boundaries. Clear ones. Tell me what you need, Ethan said. For now, space. No family dinners. No public announcements. Let me adjust. That's fair. And Ethan? Yes? If you hurt her, I won't forgive you. I won't, he said honestly. Weeks turned into months. The situation remained delicate, but calmer. Ethan and Linda did not hide anymore, but they moved slowly. No dramatic posts. No sudden changes. They respected Claire's pace. Sometimes she avoided them. Sometimes she joined them for short visits. Each small interaction felt like walking on thin ice, but the ice did not break. One evening, Claire invited both of them to a small art exhibit downtown. It was neutral ground. Public. Safe. Ethan felt nervous walking in beside Linda, unsure how the night would go. Claire greeted them politely. There was tension, yes, but also effort. During the event, Claire pulled Ethan aside. Are you happy? She asked. He thought carefully before answering. Yes. But I never wanted happiness to cost this much. She nodded slowly. Life doesn't ask permission before changing. Across the room, Linda watched them talk. She looked worried but hopeful. At the end of the night, Claire hugged her mother. It was not long, but it was real. She gave Ethan a small, cautious smile. Healing was not fast. There were still awkward holidays. Still quiet moments filled with unspoken feelings. But there was also growth. Claire started therapy to sort through her emotions. Linda gave her space without pulling away completely. Ethan learned patience in a way he never had before. 1 year later, the three of them sat at a cafe by the river. The same river that had once carried so much tension. Now it felt calmer. Not perfect, but steady. Claire looked at them and said, I don't fully understand how we got here. But I see that you care about each other. And I see that you still care about me. That will never change, Ethan said. Linda squeezed her daughter's hand. Love had not followed a straight path. It had hurt people. It had forced hard conversations. But in the end, honesty had done what secrecy never could. It gave them a chance to rebuild, slowly and carefully. As the sun set over the water, Ethan realized something important. Sometimes life spirals out of control before it finds balance again. And sometimes the hardest truths are the only way forward. The future was still uncertain. The world might judge. Extended family might whisper. But at that small table by the river, there was no hiding anymore. Only three people learning, day by day, how to live with a complicated but honest love.